Hello everyone, my name is Christian and I'm going to be speaking to you today about fragments in connection and algorithm rule, encoding the urban image emotion. The urban environment is closely related to the digital production of images and the word mark system, not only through the use and exchange of values of public goods according to the relations of production and the productive forces, but also through the symbolic values that represent cultural signification. Well, let's start with this issue. For this analysis, 3 points are addressed. The first and most significant is understanding the transformation from analog formats of films, photographs, and printed images to digital formats and mainly of new productions already in digital format. Next, the technical aspects of how digital images are configured are explored. Finally, the encoding and data compression process, which refers to reducing the amount of data needed to represent a given amount of information, are addressed. In this sense, the status of the contemporary image is analyzed in its polysemic character, that is, the diversity of its social-cultural meaning, considering the fragmented and constituent aspects of the visual system from analog to digital, considering a significant change that constitutes a new way of viewing reality. One of the most representative works of the 20th century concerning this fragmented sense of the urban image is Walter Benjamin's Arcades project, Le Livre de Passage, the French edition. This book describes the main characteristics of Paris in the 9th century with its universal exhibitions, fashion, advertising, stories, passages, iron glass construction, the streets, and more. The image fragments in a textual and visual narrative enable perceptions of an urban image movement. There is a relevant aspect from these observations that outlines the concept of aura developed by Benjamin in 1935. This concept is related to the reproduction process and effects of urban images, taking the image as art throughout its history, showing the presence of the image through reproduction, maintaining its characteristics of origin, that is, the time and place. In contemporaneity, the sense of this transference of values in front of the image is also seen as a decline of aura, regarding the rhythm of the urban image and its distance from the origin, that is, traditional values. However, this decline is also interpreted as a revolution of all the art and image functions, especially at the progressive end of tradition, which favors the immediate experiences of everyday life and which is mediated by digital technologies. Initially, in his last version of the work of art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, 1939, Benjamin addressed the technical reproductions, which in his time were the press, photography, radio, and cinema, that would lead to the impairment of the authentic experiences, thus clarifying that he did not believe that the decline of aura would enable the democratization of art and culture. He questioned whether the stars would favor the media as we know it today or whether they would be the ones favored. In addition to this classical reference as an introduction to this video, it's necessary to understand that the urban environment is about the appearances directly related to the images. To think about the image, one must actually contend with the two images. The first, objectively understood, is a graphic, photographic, plastic, and dynamic representation. The second image is subjective, an idea that one has of something conceptually. Images exceed physical and knowledge boundaries through imagination, create and provide free access to creativity, and thus have a place beyond the immediate social environment. In this sense, the status of the contemporary image is analyzed in its technical and polysemic character, that is, the diversity of its social-cultural meaning. Let's understand the digital option. With the development of digital technology and network communications through the World Wide Web, there has been a transformation from analog formats of film, photographs, and printed images to digital formats, and primarily of new productions created in digital formats. In this way, the characteristics of each form, film, photograph, and television, and the unique values as media are maintained, but only updated with the new digital technology and inserted onto the Internet. Regarding McLuhan, 1964. Virtually all companies, organizations, and institutions use the web for a diverse range of activities. That is, to manage projects, offer distance learning, virtual tours of museums, order materials, and distribute company information via the web system. The web provides servers through the open system, that is the Internet, and private and secure servers called the intranet. In this sense, graphical web browsers offer picture, sound, and video capabilities to be embedded in the text and applications that are embedded in the multimedia system. Multimedia is dependent on information and communication technologies for direct nonlinear access, interactivity, and integration with programs and applications. Its spatio-temporal nature is classified into three media, and their respective characteristics are, firstly, the discrete or static media, text, static images, and graphics. Then there are the continuous or dynamic media because their content changes over time, such as audios, videos, and animations. Finally, immersive media presents interactive information elements in 3D environments that allow great interactivity with the user. As for the degree of linear interaction, the user has no control over the multimedia reproduction process, which differs from non-linear interaction in which the user can interact through navigation. Information is accessed in a nonlinear and autonomous way by the user through various means of representation and expressions of content. The user can interact freely with multimedia. The basic classes of multimedia applications and services are conversation, messaging, retrieval by accessing multimedia information servers, and broadcasting. It is thus understood that the production of images through the digital option offers an interactive dynamic of fragments of the urban image. This production is about the diversity of images transmitted in their forms, formats, and meanings to the visual culture. However, these several meanings are also related to the variety of the visual forms of perception, with consideration given to how the visual experience is presented. In this regard, among the world of material things, the nature, traditional media, and the virtual, there is a technological transference from the material nature world and analog, which represents the traditional media, to the digital. Specifically, with regard to images, the technical aspects of how digital images are configured are relevant. There are two types of configurations: vector images and images formed by pixels. Vector images use basic geometric shapes such as lines, curves, points, polygons, and the foundations for their construction. They are images formed by mathematical calculations performed directly by the computer. The great advantage of vector images is that their data do not need to record the position of the pixels in the computer's memory. which enables reduced storage in addition to being able to enlarge the image without losing resolution, unlike the images formed by pixels. Images formed by pixels are computer images represented by bitmaps. The bitmap is a two-dimensional spatial matrix composed of image elements called pixels. The name given to process of transforming a vector image into a bitmap image is known as a raster, which corresponds to forming a sequence of pixels through a pattern of parallel lines that form the image projected onto the screen. As for the colors, in the digital system, they are formed by a pattern based on the chromatic effects of light projection by adding the primary colors, red, green, and blue, which in their totality are pure white light. Through an assortment of compositions, they offer a spectrum of color tones. This model is known as RGB and is the standard used in digital systems. However, this standard was already a feature of electronic systems and developed from significant theories based on the human perception of colors. Encoding static and moving images and data compression process involves reducing the amount of data needed to represent a given amount of information. In the context of the digital encoding and decoding of digital images, information ignored by human visual system or that is irrelevant to the intended use of the image is omitted. Therefore, this interdisciplinary analysis on the image is worth highlighting in the study of perception as a hypothesis with regard to the values and effects of contemporary visual culture, related to the connect fragments and the algorithm role between the physical and virtual world in the imagined and concrete realizations of the urban moving image. The images formed by pixels are many, and some have a well-known file format called JPEG, Joint Photographic Expert Group, which in digital practice represents an encoding that adds the compression of images without loss of visual quality. See the image quality comparison. As we can see, it's not possible to perceive the differences by human vision comparing the JPEG images with DPI 300 pixels each in 3 different resolutions. The term data compression refers to the process of reducing the amount of data required to represent a given amount of information. In this definition, data is different from information. Data refers to how the information is transmitted. Removing irrelevant visual information involves the loss of accurate or quantitative information from the image. In image coding, algorithms seek to eliminate statistical, spatial, and psychovisual redundancies. Therefore, animated images represent a significant advance in the human-computer relationship, as does the digitization of sound. Psychovisual redundancy exploits the properties of the human visual system based on greater sensitivity to distortions in soft and dark areas and greater sensitivity to changes in luminance than chrominance. So, we follow the World Wide Web since its emergence and the whole digital system in its codifications and algorithmic rules towards the future. Benjamin understood in his observations and reviews that reproduction techniques would be meaningless if they were not capable of increasing our reflections or being integrated into our experiences. If these techniques replaced the lived experience, we would lose our sense. According to McLuhan, it is essential for our orientation under the effects of media and new technologies that we do not change our goals as a result of the aforementioned units. Otherwise, we will only be conditioned to a constant and, perhaps, illusory updating by the latest technologies and resources. Finally, visual fragments configure the images displayed in the public space globally by undergoing several configuration techniques, codifications, and optimizations when conveying virtual time and space in relation to the physical urban environment. Well, one must consider society in all its dimensions. The digital world is just an extension, as a constituent of the social imaginary.